Oh, hell yeah.
This is Dubs OT.
Can't wait.
With John Dickinson.
Hey, JD, what you up to, sugar? Long time no talk to.
On KNBR 104.5 and 680. Streaming live at knbr.com and on the KNBR app.
There's two guys. Randall, and you do force the turnover. He made Randall give it up, and he threw it away. Moody running it back. Curry's wide open for three. DiVincenzo there. Gobert there. Steph three. Go! They walked him down here late, but poise under pressure for Steph Curry.
Yeah, well, the Warriors made a run, but they come up a little bit short in the fourth quarter that sees the Timberwolves outscore the Warriors 39-29, and Minnesota comes into Chase Center, and they stop a little of the Warriors' momentum that they built up before the four-day break. Steph Curry back. Big night for Steph. He goes for 39, but again, it's not enough as the Warriors lose this one tonight by that final of 127-120. We'd like to welcome you in here. It's Dubs OT with JD here on the Sports Leader. Welcome. Feels like we've been off forever, and our buddy Kyle Haar in the Daly City Studios has been off forever. Welcome to December, Kyle Haar. Good to have you back, my friend. We'll just get that out of the way right off the top of the show here. Welcome.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And yeah, I felt like I missed out a lot. Missed out on my guy, Pat Spencer, Pat Sanity, if we will. Missed out on some DeAnthony Melton coming back, and missed out on Kuminga's first TNP, and got another one tonight.
Yeah, got another one of those tonight. So the Pat Spencer show continued. Some surprises there in terms of Pat, at least as far as I was concerned. I didn't think Pat was going to start tonight with Steph in his return, but Steve Kerr went there. The Warriors throughout the first three quarters really had enough offense. They were up going to the fourth quarter, 91-88, and then in the fourth, it wasn't enough defense tonight, I thought, overall, especially in the fourth quarter. But then what ultimately does the Warriors in is the 17-0 Minnesota run in the fourth quarter. The Warriors did not score for basically 5 minutes of the fourth quarter, found themselves after being up 96-91, down 108-96 with 5:48 to go. And then the Warriors from that point went on a run of their own to come back and take the lead themselves. But too much Rudy Gobert tonight, too much of the size for the Minnesota Timberwolves tonight, and just, again, not enough offense at the early part of the fourth quarter, and I think not enough defense for Golden State throughout the course of the entire evening as they end up giving up 127. They really get hit in the paint, and so the Warriors it just can't seem to continue any momentum that they find during this season. They won a couple of games in Cleveland and Chicago, a couple of great wins. Feels like it salvages things from getting to a real point of despair. They get the 4-day break. They've been talking repeatedly about the schedule in the early part of the season and rest and needing to get fresh. They don't get Draymond or Al Horford back tonight, but they do get Steph back, and then Steph goes for 39, and the Warriors still, even playing a Minnesota Timberwolves team without Anthony Edwards, can't find enough to get the job done. So we want to hear from you. 808-KNBR is the number if you want to jump in and join the conversation. 415-808-5627 here on Dubs OT with JD here on The Sports Leader. The Golden State Lumber and Showroom text line is open, and appreciate everybody as always filing in. The best YouTube chat in sports as we come to you, of course, back here in the holiday season from Harmonic Brewing in Thrive City. It's always a pleasure right out here. Stop by, say hi if you're ever coming to a Warriors game, and we're on right here at Harmonic, right by the Christmas tree here tonight during the holiday season. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. As you see Chase Center sitting behind me, and we talk Dubs basketball. We got our buddy Will in Pacifica's in the house tonight, Kyle. We'll see if Will I don't know if Will might still be on the loose suspension from last year. He had a little he had a little FCC violation. No, we got it dumped out there. But yeah, Will was having a good time here last year. One of the all-time classic vintage moments in Dubs OT history. as Will came out dropping bombs, verbal bombs on Dubs OT. But 808 KMBR to react to this one. Some thoughts on the game. It was, I thought, the juice was back tonight with Steph and Curry back. It wound up being tied tonight. I saw this note at the end of the game for the second most lead changes of any game in the NBA this season. So this was one of the better back and forth games that any two teams have played over the course of the entire full schedule this season. I think 27 lead changes was tied for the second most in any game. And so it was a fun atmosphere. Steph being back always invigorates things. I thought the crowd got an extra boost early from Steve Kerr continuing to play the hot hand, at least at the start, in terms of Pat Spencer. I really did not anticipate Pat Spencer starting, as I mentioned, in the backcourt with Steph and Curry. And Steph looked awesome early in the game. Warriors were getting some good looks, but other than Steph, really in the first quarter, nobody was hitting the first 5-6 minutes. Quentin Post missed a couple, got off to a cold start. He would hit some three-pointers later on, but the Warriors found themselves down 28-27 into the first quarter. And then the Warriors invigorated in the second quarter, a 36-33 second quarter for Golden State. The ball was moving, a lot of assists. Stephen Curry with 16 points in the first half. Quentin Post was hitting some shots. Pat Spencer as well. And again, I mentioned that the assist totals, Warriors with 16 assists in that first half of the game. And you look up at the end of the night and the ball movement overall for Golden State as they end up with only 27 assists. So fewer assists, less ball movement in the second half compared to the first half. And in particular, you look at the fourth quarter, only 6 assists for the Warriors in the fourth quarter. So they stagnated. Obviously, the ball wasn't going in, but Minnesota was able to basically force the Warriors into some more difficult shots. And then the Warriors just couldn't stop dribble penetration tonight, which was a big problem. They were rotating off of Rudy Gobert in ways that made it very easy for the Timberwolves to flip it to him for dunks. And the Warriors really get hit in the paint in this game tonight, and they get hit in terms of some of the offensive rebounds and second chance points a little bit tonight. The Warriors ended up with more second chance points than Minnesota did, but the points in the paint also 66-44. That's really where the Warriors wind up in a difficult spot, and a lot of that was Gobert. A lot of that was Julius Randle really getting into the paint and getting to the free throw line a lot in this one, as Randle ended up going for 27. But yeah, Warriors, great first three quarters, back and forth first three quarters. The Warriors lose this game with the 17-0 run, in my estimation, in the beginning of the fourth quarter. And then you give the group credit that it was able to come back, led by Steph and Curry, down the stretch, just doing some outrageous things. But Dante DiVincenzo with a big three. Quentin Post had a wide open, take the extra time, took too much time, corner three-point shot right in front of the Warriors bench that he could not knock down after the Warriors got it to a point where they had the three-point lead. And then Dante DiVincenzo hit a three, and it just that Quentin Post three is one that I think he's going to be thinking about probably a lot tonight on a night where Quentin Post started cold and finished cold, although he ended up 4 for 11 overall and scored 16 points, which proved to be the Warriors' second high man on the docket tonight. What's that? Yeah, no doubt. Kuminga is done. Well, Kuminga got a DNP coach's decision. That was from the Will and Pacifica table, by the way. Not from yours truly here as we get going on Dubs OT. So 808 KMBR, if you want to react to this one, 415-808-5627. Again, a lot of complaints in the aftermath about the size. I thought tonight, the point of attack defense is what really set the Warriors back. And you could say, too many 3-4 guard lineups and all of that. But, without Draymond out there, you're going to play Quentin Post, you're going to play TJD as your bigs, and if you're not going to play Kuminga, which the decision has been made, at least at this point, to not play Kuminga, then you really don't have big wings on this Warriors roster at all. But to me, it was more about point of attack defense and the inability, basically forcing the help into bad spots off of Gobert. And then once he got the ball, it was just going in the basket tonight. And so rough night for Brandon Podziemski. Again, although Podziemski wasn't a part of the closing group for the Warriors in this one tonight. But again, just not enough from enough different places, and a night where you can look up and down the box score and say Steph Curry was phenomenal, although he ended up being a -3 in this game. Jimmy Butler, a -5 in this game, scores 15 points. But Pat Spencer was hitting some shots early. The ball movement was a part of the equation for Pat Spencer in the early part of this game, but just not enough two-way quality performances for the Warriors tonight. And, it just left them coming up short in a number of different areas at a number of different points throughout the course of this game tonight, as they wind up taking the loss 127-120. 808 KMBR 415-808-5627. Let's get it going with some Kyle's clicks here. We welcome Kyle Haar back and dig into the YouTube chat tonight. Tonight's just one of those nights for me, and we'll get to Alpha Nickelberry. To me, it's just one of those nights where they just continue to show that they don't have enough good players on this roster that can be counted on a consistent enough basis. And Alpha Nickelberry, JD, how'd the Warriors give up 41 in the fourth quarter? Well, a lot of it was in the paint, and a lot of it was some 3-point makes by the Minnesota Timberwolves and by Dante DiVincenzo in that fourth quarter. It's not tired legs. It's the inability to contain, point of attack defense, for as much as that can be overblown. Tonight I thought point of attack defense was the primary problem as it related to, as I've said, Gobert being able to get open. And then the Warriors couldn't get some timely rebounds. Again, you have to collectively rebound when you're going to play a little bit smaller, but they had a center, a 7-footer, or one of their true centers in Quentin Post or TJD out there without Draymond throughout the course of the game. And Gobert just owned the matchup against pretty much whoever was out there on the court tonight. So they didn't get enough from Quentin Post. They didn't get enough from TJD. But again, I think that the point of attack defense was not there tonight. It was leading to some open looks from 3-point range. Dante DiVincenzo was really good tonight. He knocked down 4 of only 11 3-pointers made in the game by Minnesota. That was an area the Warriors actually won in terms of the 3-point shooting, but some timely ones in the fourth. But again, you give up 66 in the paint, and that's where this game was lost. You give up free throws on top of it, and that's where this game was lost in large part for Golden State. But yeah, the 91-88 going to the fourth, and you wind up 39-29 in the fourth quarter, and the Warriors wind up with not nearly enough. All right, let's keep it moving here tonight. People want to get in. Andis Brown, game wasn't out of hand, but the Warriors have to be careful not to play too fast so they can get their defense set. I thought the Warriors also took some bad shots tonight at times. I thought even Steph, as great as he was, took some quick ones. Moses Moody took a couple of quick ones in the ball game tonight. I thought the Warriors did get a little sped up. I think that's a good point, Andis. Those misses lead to some transition opportunities or some early offense opportunities that went back the other way. And if the defense isn't set, you're going to get beat off the dribble. The help is not going to be where it needs to be once you get beat off the dribble, and the rotations in terms of the defensive rotations are going to allow for guys who are real good at the rim to catch the ball like Gobert did over and over and over again tonight off the pass and go up and just dunk the ball. The other thing that happens is you're out of position in terms of rebounding. And I thought, again, the Warriors got caught out of position rebounding and a little bit slow-footed rebounding tonight in a couple of key junctures that wound up hurting them as Minnesota was able to get a couple of key second chance points. Good thought there from Andis Brown. From Andis, Rich Ray, you would think a team full of guards would be a better shooting team. This looks mid. Appreciate you stopping by and saying hi. Will, appreciate you, man. Thanks for stopping by. Probably not. Probably not. Asking about Will asking about Ivica Zubac. Can the Warriors get Ivica Zubac? I know the Clippers are in shambles, but I don't think the Warriors are going to be in on Ivica Zubac. I think more so I don't think the Clippers are going to be in on looking to move Ivica Zubac. They might be looking to move some of their older players, but Zubac I don't think is going to be one of those. Yeah, just inconsistent tonight. The Warriors did make 15 threes, and I think the bigger point, Kyle and Rich Ray, this team just, Quentin Post gives it to him for a couple of games. Pat Spencer, I thought Pat, played pretty well offensively, but, he ends up 5 for 13 at the point in which he was taken out of the game and ends up, 28 minutes. He's a minus 15, which, by the way, was a game worst minus 15. He wasn't hitting shots as consistently. He was doing some things offensively, again, to move the ball, only 2 turnovers, but the key difference-making element of Pat Spencer's game, which allowed him to get on the floor and make an impact at the level that he was making an impact, was going to be, that was based on Pat making shots. You got a 5 for 15 tonight out of Quentin Post in this game. Only 11 shots for Buddy. Moses Moody 1 for 4 from 3. Now Moses Moody, I thought, was somebody that played well, and I think if you're making a case who could have played a little bit more tonight, it would have been maybe Moses Moody, who only played the 23 minutes. DeAnthony Melton is somebody that got his 20 tonight, but DeAnthony Melton, I think, is somebody, and I know Steve Kerr said in the post-game press conference that he thinks Melton is going to be in the closing lineup as he was tonight. And look, he does a little bit of everything. He can defend, he can handle, he can knock down an open shot, although he did not do that tonight from three-point range. He can get to the free throw line. I think that continues to be a bright spot. But again, you didn't get a lot of scoring from DeAnthony Melton tonight, even though DeAnthony Melton played, I thought, pretty well. And it's just the inconsistent two-way nature of getting enough offense for more than a 2 or a 3 game stretch from the guys on this roster that are in the, basically in the 4 through 15 spots on the roster. And it goes up and down. We've seen even Kuminga, who didn't play tonight, did it the first 5 games of the year. We've seen Moody do it. We've seen Moody not do it. We've seen now Pat Spencer shoot it really well and then not shoot it really well. We've seen Quentin Post do it for a couple of games, but they just don't have enough guys that are going to do it consistently enough to where you can count on player A, B, C. These are going to be the guys that you can trust on a given night. We've seen Podziemski do it as well at times, and Podziemski didn't have it tonight, so Podziemski basically found himself out of the game after the first couple of minutes of the fourth quarter and done for the night. So you can say, and look, Podziemski only played 23 minutes. And again, it's not like Podziemski played 35 and was out there, as part of the closing lineup for Golden State in this one. But you look at just top to bottom, it's just not enough consistent defenders and not enough consistent scorers, which leads to these 17-0 types of droughts like the one tonight. Max Lopez chiming in. Before we get to Max, though, I want to let everybody know that you are listening to KMBR 104.5 FM and 680 AM, the sports leader, a Cumulus media station. It is Dubs OT with JD, John Dickinson here on the sports leader. On a Friday night, Warriors lose to the Timberwolves 127-120. They get outscored in the fourth quarter 39-29 as the Warriors back on that hamster wheel to 500 as they sit currently here at 13-13, now 26 games into the season. And Steph Curry comes back. Steph Curry is awesome. and it's still not enough on a night where the Warriors don't have Draymond Green. Max Lopez, when you have 25-year-old role players like Quentin Post, they miss. When you have 28-year-olds like Dante DiVincenzo, they make. That's the NBA. Well, and the Warriors don't have enough of those types of guys, although they did have Dante DiVincenzo a couple of years ago, and Dante DiVincenzo has been somebody that's gone on to be a much more consistent shooter in the time since he left the Warriors than he was. He started to get it together with the Warriors. I know he's credited Steph Curry for improvement of his shot in the years since he left Golden State. But, yeah, a lot of it does come from experience. And, again, it's kind of the same old thing. We see a lot of these guys do it for a couple of games, and then you see other nights they just are incapable of doing it consistently. I'll throw this out to the chat and also 808 KMBR before we get to the phones here on Dubs OT. It's the notion of, was it more the offense or the defense tonight for you? What's got you more frustrated, the offense or the defense tonight? Because I think the defense was pretty bad for the most part all night long. Point of attack, interior, but then you could also make the case, and they scored 120 tonight for all the lamenting about the Warriors' offense and not having enough. You score 120 for this team that's been in the top 10 in defense and even in the top 5 or the top 3 in terms of defense, going up against a team without their leading scorer in Ant Edwards, and you would think you'd have enough to win this game tonight against Minnesota, and tonight it's the defense that can't come through and ends up giving up 127 and a ton in the paint and a ton on the point of attack. So more about the offense in the 17-0 run in the fourth quarter, or more about the defense and the fact that you end up giving up 127 to a team without their best player and 66 in the paint. That I think is a question that we can get into. So 808 KMBR, let's pause in terms of the YouTube chat. Let's get Danny in Vancouver in on the phone lines at 808 KMBR, 415-808-5627. Danny, you are on Dubs OT here on this Friday night on the Sports Leader. What's going on tonight, Danny?
Good evening, JD. We missed you. Welcome back. It was a lonely few days.
Yeah, it's
too
long. I feel a little rusty tonight, Danny, in the opening segment. Harmonica's packed. People are enjoying a brew. The energy was back inside Chase Center tonight, whether it was Steph's return or Pat's sanity or whatever it was. The Timberwolves coming in as a team that knocked the Warriors out back in the spring. It was a good vibe inside Chase Center. It was a fun game, but the Warriors haven't pulled out enough of these this year, Danny. The Denver game at home, but a lot of these close games that could go either way down the stretch, Warriors haven't really been holding up their end on the home floor in terms of pulling these out like tonight.
Interesting. You're in rare form today. Not to worry, JD. Let me say that first. I thought I got to give credit to the T-Wolves. I thought they had a really good game plan. I would maybe take very slight issue with what you said about point of attack. Yeah, maybe not even taking issue, but just to add, yes, there was some point of attack, but I would say mostly they just overpowered them. Like, how many times did Naz Reid or Randall just walk down one of the Warriors and score over them? So that was, to me, that was really frustrating through the evening. Right? The Warriors did not shoot well. I mean, if they had shot a little bit better, they could have outshot their mistakes and won the game. I definitely thought it was there for the taking. But I do agree with you. I think the defense, the bad defense impacted the game more than the lack of shooting. I mean, this was a game when we really missed Draymond. And oh my God, I'm losing my mind. Help me out here, JD. The other side, not.
Well, Horford. Yeah, Horford was out tonight.
Sorry,
as well,
I don't know why.
still.
Just my mind blanked out. Yeah, I think that would have made a difference tonight. But then they didn't have Ant-Man. So I really think it was a winnable game. It was very entertaining, by the way. Steph was great. I thought that Post and Spencer were just, I think, we talk about, eventually if you have enough good games, you start showing up on the other team's scouting report. So I think that was the case tonight. And, I mean, they've had some strong games. I thought they had some good moments. So I was curious about a couple things. So I was kind of shocked at the starting lineup, and I wondered why Moody wasn't starting. I wondered what you thought about that. And I'm really curious what you think, JD, about does this mean that Kuminga is not going to be playing at all anymore? I mean, are they just going to put him into a deep freeze now until they figure out what to do with him? Look forward to hearing your thoughts. Thanks, JD.
I was stunned. Thanks, Danny. Appreciate the call. And Danny's line open if you want to jump in and join the conversation. 808 KNBR, 415-808-5627 here, Dubs OT with JD on the Sports Leader. I was stunned at the starting lineup. And I think maybe because Anthony Edwards wasn't playing, Steve Kerr thought he could get away with playing more guards in this game tonight. But I was really surprised. I thought it was a reward for Pat Spencer to based on really helping him throughout the course of the last week. But yeah, get another playmaker out there, get another ball mover out there, take Steph off the ball a little bit. That takes a little bit of some of the wearing, getting worn down, having to constantly beat guys off the dribble and bring the ball up the court. That can take a toll on a player as well. And Steph can play off the ball as well as anybody, although Steph ended up with the ball back in his hands a ton. And man, what a finisher Steph Curry was tonight. A number of just unbelievable layups. I mean, the one he hit on Jaden McDaniels was just terrific. You don't even know on the drive how he could get the shot off. But I was surprised to see Pat Spencer starting. We'll see if that's I thought Spencer was going to be tabbed to play more when Curry was not on the court as somebody to ignite the offense that we've seen really drag with Steph Curry not on the court throughout the course of this season. But he went with another playmaker. He went smaller. I was surprised to see Buddy in there. But again, I think Kerr felt he could probably go a little bit smaller because there wasn't the need to have a point of attack defender against Edwards. And look, point of attack, it's semantics. But when I say point of attack, it's drives, it's Randall at the top, bulldozing somebody and being unable to hold up to a point where Randall's either going to get fouled or Randall's going to go in for a layup or Randall's going to dish it to Rudy Gobert and Rudy Gobert's going to cram it down. So all those things, I think, point of attack. And there were times where Dillingham did his thing. There were times where Shannon did his thing. I thought Shannon had a couple of just straight line drives right to the bucket. Naz Reid, on a little short post, would kind of put his head down and go, and they'd dish it to Gobert. As the help defense was I thought equally as poor for the Warriors in this one tonight. As far as the lineup, I probably would start Moses Moody at this point with Steph. And then you have to make the determination, I would have at minimum started Moody. If you were going to start Pat and Steph together, I would have started Moody. I think I would start Moody either way. But again, Steve finds himself in this conundrum where he wants to reward Pat, and now Moses Moody plays better. So do you want to get Moody in there? It just goes to the inability to find a consistent group. I think DeAnthony Melton would be in that group, but they're trying to limit DeAnthony Melton's minutes still to right around 20. And while I know Steve Kerr said, and we noted, he's going to be in a lot of the closing lineups, that doesn't necessarily mean he's going to be in the starting lineups because they're trying to protect his minutes at this point. And so that creates another issue as you look at who's going to play from night to night and how do you cobble together some semblance of a rotation. No Will Richard tonight, estimated eyes. I would have used Will Richard rather than Buddy. Yeah, Will Richard was the guy as you look at the starting lineup and the guys that have been in the rotation or the starting lineup and playing. He was the guy that went from playing the most to not playing at all in this game tonight. I know Kuminga kind of gets the headlines, and I'll get to Danny's question about Jonathan Kuminga coming up here in just a second. But yeah, Will Richard, I was surprised, but somebody is going to have to be the odd man out if you're going to play 11 different players. As Steve Kerr did tonight, and it was only a little bit of Guy Santos and a little bit of Peyton. I mean, it was really 9 tonight for the Warriors and relatively balanced among the bench players. But so you could make a case for Will Richard, but they like having Buddy Hield on the floor to be able to stretch the defense and be a threat to open up some more lanes to be able to drive and kick. and the like. So, again, I know Buddy is a player that, when the Warriors lose, what do we often talk about among the family? We talk about Pods, talk about Buddy, talk about where's Kuminga, you can't, it's hard to please everybody. Basically, Steph took Will Richards minutes tonight, if you really want to look at it. Like it was Steph coming back and playing as well. And then estimated, I want to see Seth. Well, Seth over who? I mean, and I get it. A lot of fans are going to say over Pods, over Buddy. Buddy and Pods are better players than Seth. And I'll say what I said before they signed Seth Curry. I don't think the Warriors brought Seth Curry in to play him as a regular rotation member. And it looked like maybe that I was wrong on that the first night when he played against Oklahoma City and played well. But that was a night where they didn't have Steph. That was a night where they were down a couple of others. And it was kind of a skeleton crew to try to get through. That's not to say that he's not going to play at all. But, again, I don't think they brought Seth in to be a regular member of the rotation or to be playing over Pods or over Buddy Hield like he's a better and more consistent option. Now, he may be a better and more consistent shooter, but defensively, I think he immediately becomes somebody that the opposition looks to repeatedly attack. And so I think that becomes the question. I mean, whether you love or hate, Buddy and Pods are better players than Seth Curry most nights. I mean, I think that's just reality at this particular point in time. All right, 808 KNBR 415-808-5627. Before we get back to the chat, and I think we're almost due for our first time out here as well. Kyle, you can let me know on that. I don't think Kuminga's just going to not play between now and January 15th, but he's going to have to get back in on a night where things are really not going well. And let's be honest, like things were going fine for the Warriors through the first three quarters to where, if you weren't saying Kuminga should be playing in the first three quarters, you can't say when the Timberwolves go on a 17-0 run that he should be playing in the fourth quarter. Like that's just not how it works. Now, I do think there's going to be a night where the planned rotation is not going to be playing well, and Steve Kerr's going to go to Kuminga for an energy boost, and then it's going to be on Kuminga to be ready to go and provide that energy boost and do the things that the coaching staff has asked him to do. And energy, hustle, attack the basket, which is something that he has not done since he returned from injury. So I do think he's going to get an opportunity. I don't think it changes anything in terms of them looking to trade him at the deadline and needing to look to trade him at the deadline. But he's going to find himself on the, he's going to get an opportunity. I'm just going to say that. Drew Ford right there. I still don't understand why Kuminga plays 0 minutes. Because he's out of the rotation, because he didn't play well when he came back from injury, and he wasn't playing, he wasn't attacking, he wasn't hustling. He was, the Warriors found some momentum with some of these other players. But again, the problem that they have is anytime the Warriors find momentum with a group, for the most part, it only lasts for 2 or 3 games, and then you're looking to another group. Hunt and peck, try to find where can you go for the next 2 to 3 games. So that probably means that if you're frustrated that Kuminga didn't play, wait 2 or 3 games. And this, I guess, would be the first game that the Warriors got beat with him not being a factor in the equation. All right, let's take a quick timeout. 808 KNBR, 415-808-5627 if you want to jump in and join the conversation. Warriors lose this one. It was a bad fourth quarter. 127-120 is the final. Timberwolves beat the Dubs. And we're talking about it right here on the Sports Leader.
Live from downtown.
Curry, way downtown. Bang! Bang!
This is Dubs OT with John Dickinson on the Sports Leader. Streaming live at knbr.com and on the KNBR app.
Shot clock at 9. DiVincenzo for 3. Got it. And that's why you think about fouling Gobert when you have it. Now you're down 5 with 27 seconds left. He's hit 2 backbreakers.
Yeah, Dante DiVincenzo with a couple of big ones against the Warriors in that fourth quarter. Warriors lose to the Timberwolves 127-120. No Anthony Edwards for Minnesota. I think that just adds to the frustration if you're the Warriors in this one as they fall back to 500. Again, 13-13. And the Warriors are going to be back in action on Sunday in Portland, the second of the 2 added games following the Emirates NBA Cup. So the Warriors back to 8th in the Western Conference as we look at the standings here. Almost a third of the way through the season. Will be a third of the way through the season coming up here basically on Sunday at the 27 game mark. And the Warriors still disappointing overall tonight, despite a lot of positivity in relation to the offense for the most part. But they put 120 up and still had a 5-minute stretch where they went completely scoreless. Steph Curry was phenomenal in his return from injury. 39 points tonight for Steph. He was attacking. He was shooting. The 6 3-pointer. Like, Steph was just awesome. Limited the turnovers tonight, only 2 for Steph. And the Warriors lose a game where they didn't win the turnover battle because Minnesota only had 10 tonight. And again, I think that's another testament to the Warriors' defense or lack thereof. But only 13 turnovers for the Warriors, which honestly for them is an excellent game. And when they don't turn it over, they do tend to have much better offensive outputs. And we know Steve Kerr, a firm believer that the Warriors winning the turnover battle is the single most important note as to whether or not they win or lose games. So 808 KNBR, 415-808-5627. The question of the night, so to speak, here on Dubs OT. More frustration with the offense or the defense tonight? I think it was the defense that was the bigger issue in this one. Warriors kind of got manhandled in the paint, and I thought manhandled a lot on drives in this one. And so the Warriors find themselves kind of back to the drawing board. I agree with a couple of people who chimed in via Twitter at JD John Dickinson, at KNBR, if you want to weigh in and leave your comments that way. A couple of people saying, hey, they really missed Draymond tonight. They did, without a doubt. I mean, tonight would have been one of those nights. And I know Julius Randle really abused Draymond in the playoff series back in the spring. But tonight is the kind of night where you want to have Draymond going up against Gobert some. And we've seen Draymond against Gobert just out physical him to a point where Gobert will just be ineffective or get in foul trouble or get frustrated with the officials. And so not as much Randall, but when Draymond's on the court, we've seen Gobert be less effective from time to time. But his rebounding tonight, his defensive intensity, again, tonight's one of those nights where you look at some of the numbers, the on-off numbers pertaining to Draymond when he's on the court and the Warriors and where they are defensively. They've been significantly better when Draymond's been on the court as opposed to off the court. And tonight with Draymond off for a full game. And I thought Danny in Vancouver made the point, hey, give the Timberwolves a lot of credit for their game plan. And I agree. The game plan was basically to use the size to set up easy buckets or free throws or to try and get open three-point looks. And again, the Timberwolves only hit 11 three-pointers in the game, but they were the timely ones late, in particular, like the one we played from Dante DiVincenzo coming in, that ultimately proved to be the difference in this one. But frustrating night, I think, because it's another tell that this team just doesn't have enough against another good team consistently. And you know, you get Steph back. Steph looks amazing, and you go through, the entire game basically not being good enough defensively, but you still have the lengthy stretch where you're not good enough offensively. And while you can come out of the game saying, hey, you really like DeAnthony Melton, you're still, I think, a closing player short on a night like tonight. And that's even factoring in the fact that Draymond Green is going to be out there that can counter some of the wing length. And again, I know people are saying, well, you've got a guy in Jonathan Kuminga that's wing length, and you're choosing to not play him in this matchup. And again, I think it's fair to say that, but I think what's going on with Jonathan Kuminga at this point is bigger than any single night and any single individual matchup. Kerr was riding the hand from the group that gave him a lift in Cleveland and in Chicago, only with Steph Curry back. So somebody was going to have to take a seat in terms of their overall minutes and usage. And that somebody wound up being Will Richard. And he was trying to get, and we talked about this afternoon. I was on with Papa and Silver, and I said, point blank, the key for the Warriors is going to be trying to figure out how do you maximize the positives that you got in these games where you won without Steph and have it be able to translate to games when you have Steph, because too often it almost appears as if the Warriors have to be two different teams on nights where they have Steph versus nights where they don't have Steph, and they just don't have a roster to be able to do that nearly consistently enough. But I don't think Jonathan Kuminga makes much of a difference at this point in a game like tonight. And I know you might be saying, JD, look what he did. What he did in the playoffs against Minnesota doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Gene disagrees. Tonight should have played Kuminga. Does well versus Minnie. Just like Nas looks like a top 10 player versus the Warriors. It's matchup based. Kuminga played well, I think, in a regular season game or two last year against Minnesota. I know one of the games right around this time last year that the Warriors won, he was a part of a closing lineup down the stretch when they beat the Timberwolves inside Chase Center a year ago. But, again, I don't think anything he did in the playoffs translates to anything that would warrant him getting any more minutes. And, again, I maintain that there's more going on behind the scenes in terms of some concerns about how Kuminga handled his return from injury and the style that he played with at that, basically settling for a lot of jumpers, not looking to attack. A couple of, some games he was in on the rebounds, some games he wasn't. But I think it was, there was a little bit left to be desired with the way Jonathan Kuminga was playing in his return. And I think there were some questions as to whether he was given it 100. And, in addition to some of the things from the agent and the cloak of January 15th hanging over everybody. I know the Warriors have tried to do their best to say it's not about that, and it's about the basketball, and it's about what's on the court. But again, we've seen enough of a sample size to know that Kuminga is just as inconsistent as everybody else, and finding the right nights and the right matchups to play him are just as tricky as they are, determining the right nights to give Moses Moody 35 minutes instead of 23, or Pajemski 23 instead of 32, and all of that. So, all right, let's get back to the chat. From Gene, we move to JC Mack. JD, are other forces at play with our rotations? Shocked by the starting five. We already settled that Pods is not a point guard, but he still played point guard. Will also can't get in. I was surprised. That one's a surprise to me. I don't know that there's other forces at play with anybody else. I do, but I mean, to me, Pajemski kind of showed that he's better when he's not the point guard. And I thought, and again, I'll admit I was wrong, at least for a night. I thought Pat Spencer was going to be the backup point guard, and he wasn't. They wanted him out there with Steph, which was surprising. I mean, it was. They wanted another playmaker out there, maybe because Draymond was out, to get a third playmaker out there on the court in addition to Steph and in addition to Jimmy. But I would have thought that even at that, the rotation would have been staggered to a point where Pat would have been the backup point guard, and maybe he's playing with Jimmy, and maybe you try to find in a backup role some of those lineups that Pat was able to work with in Cleveland and in Chicago. Maybe you find some of the, when he's out there with Moody and Will Richard and Jimmy and maybe Quentin Post. Like, why can't that become your start of the second, start of the fourth quarter bench lineup? So it was perplexing to me. I know often I get cast as somebody that's a Steve Kerr apologist, which is wholly inaccurate. But that one surprised me tonight. That really did. Again, I think part of it was a reward for Pat. Part of it, keep him in there, ride the hot hand. Part of it was maybe not needing a point of attack defender as much, or not thinking that you needed a point of attack defender as much in maybe Moody or Will Richard, because you weren't going to be going up against Anthony Edwards. But yeah, Pods was basically the backup point guard tonight, and played backup point guard. Will Richard, somebody's got to come out. And I think I would basically say, I mean, GP, he played, 4 minutes, I think, and Guy played 6. So, I mean, really, they kind of didn't play either. But, yeah, for Will Richard to go from somebody that wasn't playing a lot as a starter to a complete DNP, again, if you're going to play, though, Steph, and you're going to play DeAnthony Melton, and you're going to play Buddy, even if you're playing Buddy at the 3, and Buddy played a lot of 3 tonight. Moody played a lot of 3 tonight. Moody played 4 tonight. And so Moody was playing ahead of Guy, basically, and ahead of Jonathan Kuminga at the 4. And so if you're going to play those guys, then, and you're going to play Pods, then you wind up, GP's not going to play as much. Guy didn't play as much as he'd been playing. This may not have been the best matchup for Guy, and then Will Richard winds up being the guy that comes out on the short end of the stick. But I think, in the chat is kind of getting into it in a debate that they like to have going back and forth with each other. The bottom line here is, if we're talking about should it have been Will Richard or should it have been Jonathan Kuminga, given his status on this Warriors roster, we're talking about options that aren't good enough. Anytime you have to hunt and peck night to night, this guy or that guy, it means you don't have enough guys that you can consistently count on. That's my overarching takeaway in this one. It's not Steve Kerr screwed up or the rotation was bad. It's you just don't have enough. And Rebel DeSounds is saying it. Some of the guys that played tonight are going to get traded with Kuminga. Wait and see. I think that's right, especially if you're going to figure out a trade that's going to allow for Pat Spencer to be on the active 15-man roster. Gene McIntyre saying too many specialists going to have to make a move. Yeah, they need to give away. They need a 3-for-2 or a 2-for-1 type of a trade. We talk about it every night. But what they need more than anything is another guy who is going to be a 80% of the time finishing lineup guy. And I agree with Steve Kerr in that Melton's going to be one of these guys. And Steph and Draymond and Jimmy are going to be what Melton. They need the 5th guy. Who's that 5th guy going to be? You have 4. Who's the 5th guy going to be? That, to me, is the question that they're going to have to figure out. No cap. I don't want to hear they missed Draymond tonight. I saw what happened in the Wolves series. Randall absolutely cooked him. Would have been on the bench in foul trouble. Hey, he cooked him. I got no argument for that. But having Draymond out there to scrap and to lay some fouls and to get some stops, maybe in addition to getting some fouls, I think it would have helped the Warriors defense tonight. No cap. I think it would have helped the Warriors defense tonight. But you're not wrong. Randall had his way with Draymond in that series. Make no mistake. But I do think having Draymond is better than not having him. Aaron Cliff, Warriors are too small. When did the Wolves acquire Wilt Rudy Chamberlain? So frustrating when we just get destroyed by size. Well, if you want to blame Gobert, if it's Quentin Post and TJD. And I thought somebody said it in the chat. I thought TJD's not meant to match up with Rudy Gobert. Like TJD, again, he's an 11 to 15 guy on the roster. He was a he was a guy that helped against Cleveland and Chicago, and you don't have Draymond and you don't have Horford, so he's going to get run in some form tonight. But, again, when you say the Warriors are too small, I tend to think of that as too small on the wing. That I agree with that point. But too small on the wing is not what got your ass beat by Rudy Chamberlain tonight. But I agree, Aaron, no matter what you want to say, it is frustrating. It is extremely frustrating. 808 KMBR. Diggum, Warriors lost this game because players other than Curry can't make open shots, and TJD is soft. Well, they couldn't consistently, and that's been a frequent problem. Quentin Post started cold and then got hot, and he was the only other one. I mean, he ended up 4 for 11. He was the only other respectable volume three-point shooter. Buddy hit 2 of 4 tonight. But, yeah, Pat was 2 of 6. So he hit a couple. But, yeah, there were too many times tonight where there were too many open shots that were missed. But, again, in the grand scheme of things, yeah, you're talking about winning a game 132 to 127. And to me, it's why can't you win the game 120 to 114 if you've been touted for what's been overall elite defense? Bennett Roth, can Pat Spencer be a part of the closing lineups? Should Pat Spencer have been a closer tonight? I think you could make a case for or against, but if you look at who closed tonight for the Warriors, who are you taking out? Bennett, I'll ask you, who are you taking out tonight? Because it was Steph, it was Melton, it was Moody, and then it was Quentin Post, basically, that was out there tonight as part of the closing group, and it was Jimmy. So, I mean, you tell me. Steph, Melton, and I'm looking at the line. Steph, Melton, Moody, Jimmy, and Post. So who should Pat have closed over? You're not going to go super teeny small and put him in for QP. Moody was, I thought, one of the better Warriors tonight. It's not going to be Steph or Jimmy. And tonight, I think Melton was more impactful as a two-way player than Pat Spencer was. And Pat was a minus 15, by the way, tonight. Like, it not for nothing. And you know, the eye test didn't really match that for me. But, and I agree with this, Max. Love Spencer's energy, but Curry-Spencer backcourt's a defensive liability in crunch time. Totally agree. Totally agree. I think it absolutely is. And I think that's why you probably can't start that group moving forward, because I think the Timberwolves tonight weren't equipped to really attack it with guards that can look to score. But there are plenty of other teams that do have guards equipped to score on the interior, including Portland, and you know, you want to talk about wings that can attack also and get to the basket. We've seen Portland do that to the Warriors in 2 games already this season. And now they're going to get an extra opportunity because they're one of the 2 teams that got picked up for these extra games here because of the Emirates Cup schedule and the draw and the way things played out. So, yeah, I think Pat should be a part of it. I wouldn't, and I'm definitely not blaming Pat for tonight, but I think he needs to be more of a backup player, I think, in terms of the point guard, and get his minutes more when Steph's off the floor than getting minutes sharing the backcourt with Steph Curry. JMU22, Pat averaged 70% from three-point range the last 4 games outside of tonight, but averaged 22 last year, was bound to come down to earth. Yeah, that's one of the big things that's been touted about Pat Spencer's improvement is the fact that he's knocking down mainly the wing 3 or the above the break 3 has been the shot where he's been most improved, and he hit one of those tonight. But, yeah, Pat, I think as time goes on and he plays more, he's going to have to knock down the shots more consistently. Otherwise, that is going to be the thing that keeps him off the court, because that's been the thing more than anything that's kept him from being a more regular NBA player to this particular point in his NBA career. Let's get a few more. Joke's on you, JD. Mike Dunleavy has to make it easier on Kerr. Too many redundant players, no set lineup. No lineup because every back-to-back, every 5 days someone is out or has an agenda. Very well said. Joke's on you. Yeah, there's too many there's too many inconsistencies, whether it's injury or rest or age or agendas or guys that just can't string 5 good games together, but can string 2 or 3 good games together. And so the only answer to that is better players. And again, I give the guys who played well in Cleveland and Chicago credit. They earned the opportunities that they received tonight, but overall, this team's just not good enough as they're currently constituted. They are a player away from being able to call themselves a contender, and that's even with Draymond back in the lineup. And I'm not even going to count Al Horford because Al Horford has been such a net negative to this point. We'll kind of see if Horford can get in where he fits in and play at a higher level when he gets another opportunity. But he's been a miss to this point in time. All right, let's do like 3 or 4 more. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back with some sounds of Dubs OT and some fun with numbers. Bennett Roth, should Jimmy have just gone up with the shot instead of kicking it to post in the corner? There were 2 or 3 of those tonight where I thought Jimmy should have shot it, but there's 2 or 3 of those every night where I think Jimmy should have shot it. And Jimmy's going to kick it out and play unselfish basketball. I think part of the reason Jimmy kicks those out, by the way, let's just be honest. I think part of the reason Jimmy kicks those out is because he knows he can't finish them on the interior, because he knows he's not athletic enough, especially against some of the premier bigs and shot blockers in the league. So I think he doesn't want to get his stuff thrown. And if he doesn't think he can get a foul or make the shot, he kicks it out, which at that point is the right basketball play if you're going to get your stuff thrown on the interior. But there are a couple every night that I think look that way, Bennett, without a doubt. 808 KMBR, 415-808-5627. John Jay, Pods and Buddy play too much. It's even worse when they're together. That's when Minnie scored the 17 unanswered. And yeah, that was the start of that. And there was a bridge. It bridged into the Curry minutes as well. But the start of it was the start of it was Pat, Pajemski, Moody, Butler, and TJD. Actually, it was not Buddy. And then Buddy ended up back in with Steph and Melton, and it was Steph and Guy Santos and Melton and Moody that were a part of it as well, with Quentin Post in that group that was part of the 17 to the 17 to nothing run. Actually, Buddy didn't play at all in the fourth quarter in the 17 nothing run. Just checking the notes there on that one. So it wasn't Pods and Buddy together, John. In that fourth quarter, it was Spencer and Pods together at the beginning of the fourth quarter when the 17-0 run started. And then it was with Moody and Butler. Guy and Steph came back along with Melton. So it was the second half of that run was Quentin Post, Guy, Steph, Melton, and Pajemski before Pajemski came out at the 5:48 mark when the Warriors found themselves down by 12 before they had the comeback. Dr. P needed Green tonight. Would have rather seen Seth and Richard over Pajemski and Healed. All right, fair enough. I think, again, we're back to our regulars here when the Warriors lose. When the Warriors lose, Steve Kerr's fault, Pajemski's fault, Buddy's fault. Every Warrior loss. And yes, and Seth Curry would have made the difference. But again, that's why we're here on Dubs OT on the Sports Leader. All comments welcome. How about you go find somebody that's better than all those guys that you just know is going to be able to be plugged in on a night in, night out basis down the stretch. I don't disagree with the Draymond part. Hey, Beerman, Horford signing was a total waste of money and a roster spot. He has not been good to this point for Golden State. And, if the Warriors truly are out scouring the trade market for bigs, that tells me that they are much more concerned about Al Horford and his ability to contribute than lets on. And look, anytime you have a guy 39 approaching 40 in any given year, he can be a player that completely doesn't have it. And I think there have been a lot of nights to this point this season where Al Horford's looked like a guy that hasn't had it. More nights than not, he's had it. JMU22, LOL, you're right, JD. It's always Pods and Buddy's fault. It's always Pods and Buddy's fault. Yeah, look, it's just part of the deal. It's Kerr's fault. It's Pod's fault. It's Buddy's fault. And then you get the where was JK on top of that on a night like tonight. That's the bonus. Where was JK? More Seth. Anytime the Warriors lose. If you do play Kuminga, which I've never recommended, it would be this game. Again, I think there's more going on behind the scenes as it relates to Kuminga and the belief that he's going to go out there and play at 100%, given the way everything is played out. And look, there's a lot of blame to go around for that on the Warriors side and on the Kuminga side. But I think there's more afoot as it relates to that. All right, let's take a timeout. We'll get more from the YouTube chat. We do still have time to sneak in a couple of calls at 808-KNBR, 415-808-5627. Going to get to a text message or two on the Golden State Lumber and Showroom text line. But sounds of Dubs OT straight ahead right here as we continue from Harmonic and Thrive City on the Sports Leader.
KNBR presents the sounds of Dubs OT.
I can see the headline now. Kerr says Warriors better without Curry.
No class, no balls.
I want to get my joy back. I'm happy here, off the court.
Now here's John Dickinson.
All right, we're back here at Harmonic Brewing in Thrive City. As always, stop by, say hi if you are coming out to a Warriors game, including the next home game, which, man, these home games, we're going to make up for it in January because the Warriors, I think, are going to be home every other night from like January 2nd until the 20th, literally. So we're going to make up for it after the first of the year. But the next home game for Golden State, not until a week from tomorrow on Saturday. They'll go to Portland, 3 more days off. Then they play in Phoenix next Thursday, and then they'll play the Suns, a home and home. So 2 consecutive games against the Suns next Thursday down in the desert, and then a week from tomorrow. And we'll have Dubs OT for you following that one right around 8 o'clock here at Harmonic in Thrive City. So if you're ever out at Harmonic in Thrive City, stop by, say hi. We love to hear from you, as our buddy Will in Pacifica did here to start the show. Before we get to sounds of Dubs OT, Warriors lose 127-120 to the Minnesota Timberwolves. Fourth quarter, 17-0 Minnesota run does the Warriors in. Dubs didn't score for a 5-minute stretch of that fourth quarter. And the Timberwolves outscore Golden State 39-29 in the fourth quarter. That where this game is lost, despite the Warriors putting 120 on the board and Stephen Curry in his return going for 39. The Golden State Lumber and Showroom text line here from the 408. They're just 2 GD short. Is that so hard to see? Well, again, they are on the wing. That I agree with, and it's not hard to see. I mean, Warrior fans complain about 3 and 4 guard lineups, even though routinely a couple of the guys that are considered guards when people are complaining about it are actually, like Moses Moody's a forward. He's a forward and a guard. Like Moses Moody, he's got the height more of a guard, but the wingspan and the girth of a wing type of a play. But they are a wing player short. We can quibble about the centers, and tonight they played their truest 2 centers on the roster in Quentin Post and Trace Jackson Davis, and Rudy Gobert killed them. So for all of the tonight I think is more an indictment of the fact that Quentin Post and TJD are not necessarily bulk minute type players against other true bigs, especially defensively. And look, we've praised Quentin Post for his defense. But again, a lot of the buckets that were made by Gobert were bad help. It was off of the need to help because the point of attack or one-on-one defense was compromised to a point where he'd have to help. He'd get out of position. They'd dish it to Gobert, or they'd lob it to Gobert, and he would dunk it. So, but yeah, they're not short at the guard spot, and I actually don't think when they have Draymond, they're short at the big spot. They need another wing. They need another 6'7", 6'8" guy that can play the 3 and play the 4 and be part of the closing lineup. 314 Warriors just in that gravitational pull of 500. 530 DiVincenzo. The Warriors killer does it again. Shake my damn head from the 530. 650 Warriors are multiple players away. Need a 3-and-D wing and another scorer. Give me the 3-and-D wing, and then let's see. But to get the 3-and-D wing, it's going to take, I think, more than the Warriors are going to be willing to give up. And then the 909, I don't get this one. But I guess it sort of makes sense. I hope the Warriors keep losing, says the 909. Even if they make some big trade later this season, it might force them to rebuild sooner rather than later. I don't know anybody, although apparently our buddy in the 909, who wants the Warriors to start rebuilding soon. Who wants their team? You got Steph freaking Curry on the roster. You're talking about wanting to rebuild? Get out of here. Talk to me about that in 2028, for crying out loud. Talk to me about that in 2030, for crying out loud. Nobody wants to be talking about a rebuild right now. Miss me with all of that. All right, let's get to our Sounds of Dubs OT here. We'll hear from Steve Kerr. We'll hear from Stephen Curry. We'll keep it short and sweet and to the point here. Here is Steve Kerr, who has praised the Warriors' defense overall in the first 20-plus games of the season. What did he think of the defense tonight?
I thought our defense let us down tonight. We had several plays in transition in both halves where we lost sight of Naz Reid and a couple of their shooters. And I just thought our transition defense was poor. There was one, it was 96-91, I think, and he got a three. We were in position to handle that when there seemed to be some confusion. So transition defense wasn't great. And then the first part of the fourth quarter, I think they were like 20-5 with their run, and we just couldn't get anything going. So, that stretch hurt us. Our guys were amazing with the comeback and gave ourselves a chance. And then again, we let Dante get free, up three. We got to play better defense than that.
Yeah, bad defense for the Warriors tonight, and it was 18. He said, I think 20-5. It was 17-0, the run that ultimately did the work. Interesting to hear him say transition defense. And there were some key – the transition defense, I think, tonight was a lot like the second chance points, where the Timberwolves only 12 fast break points, but it wasn't as much the fast break points as the early offense. And, yeah, the Warriors just not where they needed to be in terms of the overall defense in this one tonight. All right, let's hear more from Steve on the defense. We talked about the transition and heard – from him on that front, but how did Steve Kerr think that the Warriors bigs defended in this game tonight?
They're a massive team, and but I thought Quentin and Trace both did a great job, battling down there. We hung tough on the glass. We played, I thought, well enough to win, but had a long dry spell there early in the fourth. I think late third, early fourth, where we had some open looks, didn't knock them down. I'm going to have to watch the tape to see what we can do better offensively. But injuries happen. They're without Anthony Edwards, obviously. So their injuries are a part of this thing, and our guys battled really well.
They battled. They get credit for the comeback. I don't know that there's much that you change offensively other than you got to hit open shots. And I think we talked about it in the chat on the text line. Like, there were a lot of open shots, and look, they put up 120 tonight. But the drought is some quick shots and missing some open shots, honestly, on a night where Steph is just out of this freaking world. Sure, the size of the Timberwolves is an issue, but I thought, I thought Quentin Post and TJD both left a lot to be desired tonight. That's just being real about it. Again, I know Quentin's been one of the better big man defenders in the league overall to this point. So it is a one-off. It is a unique matchup. You would like to have Draymond in the mix, I think, when you're going up against a team like the Timberwolves, despite what Julius Randle did to him in the playoffs. But there isn't a lot offensively to kind of flip it back to that I think can be done differently other than hit some freaking shots when they're open. All right, let's hear three Steph Currys here before we wrap things up. First one, just on Steph being back. I mean, he is playing in this one first time since the night before Thanksgiving for Steph Curry. Here's just how he felt being able to be back in the lineup.
pretty good to start and normal, like middle of the game, trying to get your second win. And then once you get into the rhythm of the game, things started to feel normal again. So it was a good first game back just to get my lungs back and feel like myself.
Often it feels like Steph might need a game to shake off the rust. He didn't need a game to shake off the rust tonight. He was awesome tonight. And I know he also talked about having some fun starting at the 2. He compared it to playing with Jarrett Jack back in the day. Well, that's a name. That's a blast from the past kind of a name. Go back to the Mark Jackson 2012, 2013 Warriors. And Jarrett Jack, that first year they went from bad to good. But, yeah, all good tonight on the Steph Curry front, as he ends up with 28 shots tonight. And he shot 50%. He was 6 of 15 from 3, but 28 shots tonight for Steph Curry. Let's hear from Steph on the drain potentially of taking all those shots.
The attempts aren't really a thing that wears you out. It's more if you're on ball a lot and pick and roll and stuff like that, how much you're running off ball as well. And so like that middle of the game was, when you're doing rehab and all that, it's usually a sustained kind of session, how long you're out there on the court. And then you got, long timeouts, halftime and all that. So you're kind of coming up and down your rest periods during the game. So I was just trying to get back to the rhythm of that. So the shots aren't necessarily a thing that, again, creates fatigue. It's more the style of play.
All right, so Steph Curry weighing in there. Let's hear one more from Steph, talking about going up against a team that has so much size when you're undermanned, as the Warriors were tonight, in the size department without having Draymond Green, who is still the Warriors' best center, and Al Horford, who was signed to be somebody that was going to be a factor in games like tonight, going up against a guy like Rudy Gobert. And here's what Steph weighed in on about that.
Yeah, it's 51 combined. And, with Rudy, you can try to keep a body on him and kind of take him out of the offense at times, just because if we do have, size, and I think he made his presence felt, obviously, driving lanes, he was getting offensive rebounds, he was getting those little drop-down passes, and everything at the rim. So 24 and 14, that's tough to overcome. Draymond and Al understand how to, make their impact, make their presence felt against him, but we didn't have him. We had to figure out a way to get it done, but we just did.
Yeah, couldn't get it done tonight. I think it's difficult, too, going up against, Gobert and Naz Reid are so different. For a big, to be going up against both in the same game. Gobert's getting everything's basically a dunk. Everything's off of either an offensive rebound or off of a pass from other action that you're running. And then you've got Naz Reid, who's he's out there shooting 24-foot threes. It's completely different. He's driving closeouts and taking open threes, basically. So it is a challenge, to be sure, especially when you don't have any kind of veteran presence going up against those two guys as the Warriors had tonight. So that's our Sounds of Dubs OT for this one, as the Warriors lose 127-120 to the Minnesota Timberwolves. All right, back to our buddy Kyle Haar in our Daly City studios. Let's get some Kyle's clicks here. We'll keep this thing going. We'll go about another 7 minutes or so on this Friday night and wrap it up. But let's go rapid fire through the YouTube chat. Quick comment here, and we'll dive right into it here on Dubs OT. Bennett Roth addressing Fozzie, our buddy Fozzie. It's such a catch-22. What did Fozzie say? More JK? Less JK? I need to know what Fozzie said. What did Fozzie say? What's the response? What is Bennett responding to?
I do need to find it, but I was looking at that conversation, and I think Fozzie was saying that they should play JK more just to showcase like his athleticism.
Yes.
It's a boost to his trade value.
I did see that from Fozzie. Okay, Bennett, it's a catch-22. if JK plays in order to boost his trade value, but his play contributes to more losses and wins than what he got. Well, I think that's the problem, is the fact that JK he's played really badly in the game since he returned from injury. And I think going away from him, but also trying to keep it as if everybody, kind of keeping it below the radar a little bit as much, if things can be harmonious, is something that you're trying to do. You can't just play a guy to try to boost it, to try and showcase him, especially, and here's the thing, especially the way Kuminga plays, you can't play him to showcase him, because his style of play is so against the way the Warriors want to play that he can get his and you can get beat, or he can try to conform to the style you want and not look great, and maybe you can win, but then he doesn't look great, which is part of the reason why he got taken out of the rotation. And so I think, and I know I see on the break pod saying they would have been better off giving JK a soft tissue injury rather than embarrass him with DNPs. I mean, he's been dealing with knee soreness. Now, that hasn't been officially on the injury report. I don't think they're trying to embarrass him, honestly. I mean, the 1 for 10 spoke for itself against Cleveland. And he was the 1 for 10 spoke for itself. I don't understand why he would get all these chances. But anyway, I don't disagree with the fact that they are hurting. I don't think they're tanking his trade. I don't think he has a lot of trade value right now. His trade value is the salary that he makes, because you're going to have to take that amount of salary back. Now, what kind of player can you get? The baseline for what you're going to get back is his salary at $22.5 million. If you add salary to that, then you're going to take back a player that makes more salary. And if you add a more talented player or a player with more value to that, Podziemski at this point's got more value on a lesser contract than Kuminga, then you try to cobble it together at that point. And then maybe you wind up adding, the key is going to be how many first round picks are teams going to ask that you add to a deal to sweeten the pot a little bit. And I think that's where it gets problematic. But I don't disagree that him not playing is hurting his value. I don't think they're intentionally tanking his value, because he's not a winning player for them right now. And so it's a tricky situation. And especially if they're considering, the fact that maybe he wasn't giving it his all. And I think internally they are questioning that in the time since he returned, or he's hurt. But again, he hasn't been on the injury report, which would indicate that he's not hurt. All right, Mr. GOAT, 1996. I don't see this Warriors team winning 50 games. We suck. We can't do it. They're not winning 50 games as they're currently constituted. They're not. There's no chance. They're not winning 50 games. What are they right now? 13-13. So what do you got to do to get to 50? If you're 13-13, that means you got to win 37 more games. You got to go 37-19. You got to go 37-19 the rest of the way. They're not going 37-19 with this team. It's just not gonna happen. Bennett Roth, Warriors are 0-22. Other teams' stars sits. I'm telling you, this team can only beat teams that are full strength. Yes, accurate, Bennett. I don't think this was a letdown issue. I don't think it was a letdown. Did they yeah, you're right. They can't beat teams with their star out, but did they let down? No, they played their ass off. And I think that's more alarming. I don't think they let down against Houston either. They just couldn't beat Houston without Durant. And they couldn't beat with Steph for a majority of that game. They couldn't beat, Steph went out with 32 seconds left when he didn't come back. The game was basically decided at that point. They were down 5, I think, when Steph went out the night before Thanksgiving. The reality is, and this is worse, they can't beat Houston with Steph when KD doesn't play. And if you watch the game, it doesn't look like a letdown. They're just not that good, as John Jay says in the chat. And tonight it was the same thing. With Steph going for 39 and Ant not playing for Minnesota, they aren't good enough to beat Minnesota. that at home, that's a problem. That's called not being good enough. That's the definition of not being good enough. All right, Kyle, how many more do we want to do? Let's do 3 or 4 more, and then we'll do some who plays first, JK or Phillip Rivers? Phillip Rivers. Literally, it's going to be Phillip Rivers because he's playing Sunday afternoon, and JK's next game is Sunday night. So it's going to be Phillip Rivers, I think. Right? Literal mind there, Ebe. Right? The Colts are playing an afternoon game in Seattle on Sunday, right? So so Rivers is going to get it. So Rivers is going to play before JK because the Warriors play at 6:10 Pacific. So it's going to be Rivers. John J. Rivers probably has 4 kids older than JK. Well, I think Rivers has at least a daughter that's as old as JK who also has a child. So thus, Grandpa Phil.
No, I actually saw. I saw that.
Well, but Kyle, when you do the math, it's not crazy,
right?
Like you're 44. You're 44. You have a 20. You have a kid when you're 22.
Grandpa Philip.
And that kid's 22.
Wow.
And that kid's 22, and they have a child, and you got your Grandpa Philip at 44.
Not to get us talking Colts football, but I saw that his oldest daughter is older than rookie quarterback Riley Leonard, who's on the Colts, and is their really only other quarterback they have left.
Well, and I think So Phillip Rivers' daughter is older than Riley Leonard. Wow. Yeah. Okay. Grandpa Rivers is better than JK. Damn. He's going to play before JK. We'll find out how he plays. That's a tough task up in Seattle for Grandpa Phil. He's playing up in Seattle against a Seattle defense that's really good. So I'm actually kind of looking forward to Rivers playing against the Niners on Monday Night Football coming up a week from Monday. But that would require him surviving the game in Seattle this Sunday. All right, let's do one more, and then we're going to do our finale here, our comment of the night. All right, Ebe here. I still think JK for Monk. I don't see it. I don't think Monk fits the Warriors style. I think if you're a believer in DeAnthony Melton and Pat Spencer playing more, you're not trading JK for Monk. Monk also has that extra player option year on his deal. I think JK could go to Sac. I don't think the Warriors would take anything back from Sacramento other than maybe Keon Ellis, but they'd have to take something else back from elsewhere. I think if JK ends up in Sacramento, it's not going to be because the Warriors take a player with a significant salary back from the Kings. I think it'll be a 3, 4, 5 team trade. Warriors will get somebody from another place. Maybe somebody like a Keon Ellis goes in a deal like that as well, but I don't think they would be the team taking Monk. All right, comment of the night.
Now, time for the Dubs OT comment of the night.
All right, San Jose Jazz fan 8. My fear is that JK will be a throw-in for any Pat Spencer trade. All right. Well done, San Jose. All right. You got to get Pat Spencer on the roster before he can be a part of any big trade, Kyle.
Was San Jose Jazz fan just going crazy during that Pat Spencer stretch there? And was he going? Oh yeah.
Off the charts. He was getting booted out of the chat. You missed like San Jose Jazz fan 10, 12, 14. Like Cole had to boot him. All right, let's get to fun with numbers, and then we're going to close up shop.
This is Dubs OT with JD. Time now for fun.
I'm a fun guy.
With numbers.
No, I'm just having fun.
On KNBR 104.5 and 680. Streaming live on KNBR.com and the KNBR app.
All right, let's get to it here. A historic night for Steph and Curry. Tonight was Steph Curry's 94th 35-plus point performance since turning 30. That's now the most in NBA history. 94. He passed Michael Jordan, Kyle, for the most 35-point-plus games since turning 30. He scored 39 tonight, so a big-time nod to Steph for doing that. He passed MJ for being basically the best of the Unks all time tonight for Stephen Curry. It was his 8th 30-point game of the season, game high 39, most points he scored in a game in his career after missing at least 5 consecutive games with an injury. That, according to Elias. So this is the best return from injury Steph game of Steph's career. Amazing. Big-time stuff tonight from Steph Curry, who was fantastic. All right, some quick team notables. Warriors are 13-13, 7-4 at home. They got to be better than 7-4 at home. Timberwolves lead the now 4-game season series over the Dubs. This game was added. They'll play again at Chase 2 more times consecutively at the end of January in Minnesota. 13th clutch game for the Warriors. They are now 5-8 in 13 clutch games on the season. 14th different starting lineup for the Dubs. And we talked about this one, Kyle. Tonight, the game had 27 lead changes right off the top of the show. That is tied for the second most lead changes in any NBA game this season. So you could make a case based on lead changes. This was the second most exciting back and forth game on the entire NBA schedule to this point as we sit here on December the 12th of 2025. Warriors in Portland on Sunday, and we'll have Dubs OT for you immediately following the conclusion of that one. Kyle Haar, appreciate you, my man. Thank you so much. Great to have you back. We will talk to you on Sunday, my friend.
Good to be back. It was good to be back. Good to see the familiar faces in the Dubs OT chat. Good to talk to you, JD. I missed you. I missed the chat. And thank you to Anthony and Gunner, who is a recent hire. But he did well. He did well tonight.
Thanks to Gunner. Thanks to Anthony Garcia. Thanks to Kyle Haar. Thanks to everybody out here at Harmonic and Thrive City. We'll talk to you on Sunday. Warriors lose this one 127-120. Dubs OT with JD here on the Sports Leader. John Dickinson.
No, God! No, God, please, no! No!
Big audio quality show.
You are a sicko, and I appreciate you for it because I'm a sicko.
I just know they kicked